In the kingdom of the Franks in the modern-day Netherlands, a group of Saxon pagans set forth and sacked and burned the Christian church of the Deventer. This seemingly small and insignificant event would spark the beginning of one of Europe's most bloody and forgotten wars of religion in its history. The Kingdom of Francia was a nation that was forged during the dying days of the ancient Roman Empire in the imperial province of Gaul. Named after the Celtic Gallic people, the Franks were a powerful tribe of Germanic-speaking peoples who had been harassing and invading the Roman province for centuries. Finally, in the last century of Rome's existence, the Franks broke through the defenses and established their kingdom that would one day become the most powerful European state in the medieval ages and would form the foundations of the modern French state. Emperor Charlemagne was the third ruler of the Carolingian dynasty of Frankish rulers, but was the first to be considered an emperor, crowned by the Pope himself on Christmas Day in the year 800 in Rome. Charlemagne saw himself as a defender and champion of Christendom, being a descendant of Charles the Hammer, who defeated a more Islamic invasion of Francia decades before. This inevitably led to Charlemagne's eastward expansion and a war of persecution against the pagan Saxon tribes. The burning of the Deventer church gave Charlemagne the excuse in 772 to invade Saxon territory and burn the Irminsul, a sacred pillar-like object the Saxons revered as part of their Germanic folk religious beliefs. Charlemagne and his army pressed on to the river Weser in modern-day northern Germany, where he sat down with a group of Saxon nobles and negotiated a peace. Leaving several destroyed Saxon strongholds behind, he turned his attention to the Lombards of northern Italy who were making trouble on the frontiers of his kingdom. The burning of the sacred tree trunk of Irminsul was not forgotten, however, for a Saxon warrior named Widukind did not accept the peace and led a band of Saxon peasants and raided Frankish border areas of the Rhine River region. These raids would continue on to the year 775 until Charlemagne had had enough and launched an invasion of what is now Westphalia and took the Saxon fort of Sigeberg. He then went on to defeat the Saxon leader Hesse and force converted him to Christianity. He would go on to subjugate all of Saxony except for the Nordalbingia region. He then returned to Italy to fight the Lombards again, but then the Saxons rebelled. In 776, the emperor returned to find his fortress at Eresburg destroyed. Charlemagne's forces would crush the Saxons again, but their leader Widukind escaped to Denmark for sanctuary. Charlemagne then called for Saxony to be more effectively integrated into his empire. This entailed mass conversions of the pagan locals to Christianity. He then brought in large numbers of missionaries to spread the word and enforced harsh punishments on anyone caught revering the practices of the pagan faith. These uncompromising practices would continue, and the land would have peace from 780 to 782. Charlemagne would then return in 782 and go further and issue the Lex Frisonum, which entailed appointing Saxon and Frankish counts to rule the land and to enforce the harsh anti-pagan laws. This would cause a backlash, however, and conflict renewed when Widukind returned from Denmark. The rebel leader led an army and invaded the Chatti area and defeated a Frankish army there. In retaliation, Charlemagne beheaded 4,500 Saxons. It came to be known as the Verdun Massacre. That event led to 2 more years of bloody warfare. Charlemagne burned his way to central Saxony and wintered his army there at Minden, where Widukind came himself and swore fealty to the Frankish emperor and converted to Christianity. With that, the Saxon Wars finally concluded. This war in ways would foretell and lay the foundations for religious strife and conflict in Europe for centuries. Charlemagne was a great ruler, but he was also a vengeful and ruthless one, stopping at nothing to crush his enemies to spread his empire and Christianity.